Welcome to the No Plan B podcast. I'm Jean Fallacara, and we're here to discuss business, science, and mindset. My guests here are not to sell anything. They are here to open their book of life. We want to understand what their purpose, goal, value, and priority are. I want to look at their action, their behavior over time, and consider what kind of background and experiences they're coming from to be the man and woman they are today. No BS, no cat. This is the No Plan B podcast. Welcome. All right, Ben, please go ahead, introduce yourself.
Jean, so great to be with you. So my name is Ben Azadi. I am the founder of Keto Camp. We are a global brand that teaches ancient healing strategies such as ketosis, fasting strategies, carnivore, etc. I have four best-selling books and social media platforms, Keto Camp podcast, etc. Our mission, Jean, is to educate and to inspire 1 billion people, to wake them up and help them take ownership and responsibility regarding their health. Because I have come to find that when you treat your health casually, you end up a casualty, another statistic. And I don't want that for humanity. So that's who I am and that's what we're doing.
I love it. And why do you want to stop at 1 billion?
Yeah, though we hit that and then we expand, to your point. Okay. So right now it's 1 billion. We're in the hundreds of millions right now. People reach, once we hit 1 billion, to your point, we'll go to 2 billion. Yeah.
That's interesting. I love it. You know what? It's funny because people that knows me knows that I'm a big fan of intermittent fasting and those protocols. But I'm like very skeptical about keto and every single diet that is out there. So for me, it was like really important to have you today to ask a couple of questions on that, but not on the intermittent fasting. But people are interested to know what intermittent fasting can do to them. And I know that you've raised a lot of polemics and discussion on the social media platform, talking about different oil, for example, was great stuff there.
Thank you.
It's true. We neglect to inform people on the proper stuff. But behind everything, I want to know the story of Ben. I've read through the lines that you cut off 80 pounds of, you said, pure fat.
Yeah.
So you have a secret on that. Some women try to lose 2 pounds of fat and they can do it. You lost 80.
That's correct. Yes.
And what brought you from there to who you are now? And you're a keynote speaker. You go to Keto Camp conferences. You're everywhere. But behind that man that speaks about all these things, what and why?
I love that you asked that question. And thank you for letting me share my story. Growing up here, we're both in Miami right now, but I'm born and raised here. I'm one of the rare locals. It's very hard to find somebody who was born in Miami and still lives in Miami as an adult. It's a very transient city, but I'm the exception. I'm one of those rare people. So growing up here in Miami, my parents immigrated here from Iran. They're both from Iran. They were born there. My entire extended family, aunts, uncles, cousins, grandfathers, grandmothers, they all lived there. My parents in the 1970s, they came here. My dad was offered a job by an American doctor who lived in Miami Beach, and he took that job, and my mom and my dad had an arranged marriage. There was about a 30-year gap in their age. So my mom was around 17 years old when she got married to my dad, and she was 18 years old when they came here to America, Miami Beach. And I was born eventually in 1984 after my sister. And my parents divorced when I was young. So my mom supported pretty much me and my sister, and we had a house she had a house with a mortgage. So she worked 3 jobs just to keep up with those mortgage payments. The American dream, right? She got sucked into it. So 2 of those jobs were working at Kentucky Fried Chicken, fast food restaurant. And the other job was a Walgreens, which is a convenience store and a pharmacy, if you will. You know Walgreens. So my mom was working all the time and I was left to my own devices. I had the whole house to myself. I hung out with really bad friends who were doing drugs, selling drugs, and you become your environment. So I was doing drugs. I was selling drugs, skipping school, very unhealthy, eating fast food, playing video games. And I developed obesity growing up. I was not just physically obese. I was also mentally obese. Yeah. I was depressed. I was suicidal. really low self-esteem, low self-confidence. And then, I didn't change things. So as an adult, I found myself still being obese physically and mentally with addictions to drugs and video games. And in 2008, I was rock bottom, where I just hit my point of either I'm going to take my life or I'm going to figure things out. And I explored taking my life. I actually went on the internet looking for the the least painful ways to end your life. And I explored suicide many, many times back then. But I kept thinking about my mom. I kept thinking about the devastation and the depression and the destruction that it would cause her. And I didn't want to do that to my mom because she sacrificed so much and loves me so much. She's been such a superhero for me. So I didn't go through with the suicide. And I knew I had to. No, I didn't. Okay. My only attempt was actually doing research on it and then thinking about it. But then the voice kicked in. What about your mom? So I didn't attempt it. But I would have went through with it if it wasn't for my mom. And I believe it was God. I believe God was telling me, hey, what about your mom? And it was a voice that kept coming through my head. God was talking to me and it stopped me. But it was a vicious cycle because I was exploring suicide, stopping myself back and forth. And I knew that plan, if you will, was out the window. So the other plan was, okay, figure things out. How am I going to figure things out? 24 years old at this time. And my best friend hands me a book. And he gave me the book because he knew I was depressed and suicidal. And he said, I think this book will help you. And it was a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And it talks all about your daily habits that they compound over time, give you your results, good or bad. And I read the book and it really helped me understand. And that one book was really good, but it wasn't that book is the greatest book in the world. It just opened up a whole new world, 2 books. I started to read authors like Dr. Wayne Dyer and Bob Proctor and Earl Nightingale and Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and Jim Rohn and all these incredible legends that you study. Yeah. And it did a lot for me. The number one thing though, that the books did for me was they helped me take ownership and responsibility for the first time ever. I stopped blaming everybody else. I stopped being the victim of my history. I took ownership and became the victor of my destiny. And I moved my body. I started to eat real food. And 9 months later, I lost 80 pounds in 9 months. I went from 34% body fat to 6% body fat, size 38 in my pants to size 30. Finally achieved a physical 6-pack, which is something that I always dreamed of. But most importantly, a mental 6-pack and what it did for my mental health. And that's how it started. That was 14 years ago. And, over those 14 years, I became a personal trainer. And then I opened up a CrossFit gym and sold it, became a health coach, etc. But that was the starting point for me. So I've been in the space now for 14 years, since 2008. 14 years.
Yeah. You found the motivation through the book and you went through the process of taking your life seriously instead of other things. But probably in the run, you lost all the friends except the one that gave you the book, I guess. Did you change environment as well, or you stay in the same area? You moved away from the sector you were in?
Yeah, I did change my environment. Not physically, still stayed in Miami, but I stopped hanging out with people who were doing drugs, who were eating fast food, who were playing video games all the time. Spend less time with them. Some people I cut out of my life. And then I found new friends. My vibration changed, and your vibe attracts your tribe. So I started to attract new people in my life. And that was difficult, very difficult to do that. So the people that were chargers in my life, who supported me, they stayed. The people who drained me, I cut them out. And even to this day, it's something I do every year. I do an audit and who's a charger, who's a drainer. If you're a drainer, you're out. It's like, you're not
we should all do that. Actually, it's very healthy and it's great for the brain, great for everything. Tell me, Ben. So you lost 80 pounds in 9 months. I know that you're a big fan of keto diet. Was it through keto?
It wasn't. No, it wasn't through keto. It wasn't until 2013 that I discovered keto. So after my initial weight loss, I was fit, but I wasn't necessarily healthy. I was one of those fit, sick people. I still was dealing with hormone issues, brain fog, digestive issues, skin, acne. So I was searching different avenues. And in 2013 is when I discovered keto and intermittent fasting.
Okay. So let me go back to 2008. You lose 80 pounds. How did you do that?
I did it with excessive exercise, calorie counting, and eating healthier foods, more whole foods. But it was a lot of exercise. It was like 2 to 3 hours of exercise every day, which is not ideal, but it was needed for me to kind of kickstart things and then figure out what, health is different than fitness most of the time. So it was with a lot of exercise.
Yeah. And it's always about the calorie in, calorie out. So anyway, that's the point. If you do exercise and you burn calories, you start by losing weight for sure. And then you discipline yourself in terms of food and healthy food. Were you guided on that or you learned by yourself?
I did P90X. Have you heard of P90X?
Yeah, just a little bit. Not much. I'm not an expert, I have to admit. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it was very popular back in the day. So they were like at-home workout videos that I followed, and I bought P90X. My nutrition advice came from Men's Health Magazine and bodybuilding.com. That's where I got my nutrition advice.
Do you mean like protein shakes and stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. I was doing protein shakes. I had the protein farts for sure. Yeah.
An expensive pee as well.
Expensive urine. That's right. All of that good stuff.
That's quite impressive, and I think that the mind plays the biggest role in that. So the people with a strong mindset can achieve those things. But it's interesting for me to see the perspective of finding some sort of God in your guiltiness for your mom, which I can understand, of course. And so thinking about suicide and then thinking about, damn, no, I'm going to go the opposite of suicide. I'm going to rebuild myself and be kind of a newborn in this skin and this body. At the beginning of our talk, you said, like, I had the mentality of a fat person. I was obese, the mentality of an obese person. I'm interested to know, how did you change that mentality? Because honestly, and I'm very blunt into saying this, but I see many people that are losing weight, but they have the mentality that it's stuck into their head and they cannot change it. And they still, like, they perceive themselves as obese, even when they're skinny and good looking. They have this imprinted, and I know it's neural pathways imprinted in their brain, but how did you do that? That's a hell of a work.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right. It is the mindset is most of the results. I would say 95% of success is mindset, 5% strategy. From my understanding, there's only two ways to change the subconscious mind, and the subconscious mind runs the show. It's 95% of the results we get. It's those deeply embedded behaviors called the paradigm. These are just things that we do every day without even thinking about it. The subconscious mind is running the show. There's only two ways that I've ever known about. I haven't seen any other ways in the research that shows how to change the subconscious mind. So the first way is an emotional impact. To give you an example, when 9/11 happened here in America, New York City, 2011, September, for anybody who was involved with 9/11, they knew somebody, they were a part of it. That was an emotional impact, and it changed the course of their life. It changed the way they think. It changed their subconscious mind. Everything changed for them. For me, my emotional impact was being suicidal and depressed and wanting to give up. So that was the starting point. But with that being said, that emotional impact wasn't as strong because it didn't change it right away. I remember, although I was 6% body fat, which is super lean, it took me 2 years after I initially lost all that weight to actually, for my subconscious mind to catch up and understand that you're actually a lean person. To your point, for 2 years after the weight loss, even though I was single digit body fat, I still felt like I was an obese person. I was still ashamed to take off my shirt, even though I had ripped abs. Yeah. So it took my subconscious mind 2 years. And that's constant repetition of changing my thoughts or working on my thoughts, working on my environment, inundating my brain tattooing myself with books and mentors, etc. So spaced repetition and an emotional impact are the two ways to change the subconscious mind.
To be able to teach this to, well, you did because you were a life coach. So can you teach people how to do that, to shift their mindset and become like you were?
Yeah, it's what I teach my Keto Camp Academy students. They come into my academy thinking they're going to learn keto, and they will, but we talk more about the mindset, especially in the beginning, because that is the fundamental. And I teach them this. Yeah, I teach them, number one, because you nailed it in the beginning. The environment determines your thoughts. Your thoughts determine your actions determine your results. So the beginning point was the environment. So first we clean up the environment. So if somebody's in the habit of watching the news all day or scrolling on social media or hanging out with friends who are drinking beer and pizza, we clean that up. We change the environment. Then it helps them change their thoughts, and then they start to change their actions, and then they get better results. So it starts with the environment.
Got it. I love it. I have questions that are popping into my mind.
I love it.
The first one is like a direct question, but I want to go back to the creation of Keto Camp and with the purpose of mindset instead of keto, the perception of the title. That's one, but we're going to jump back to this topic. What is the difference between you and a guru?
Yeah, what is the definition of a guru? I don't even know. So we have to look that up. I don't consider myself a guru. I consider myself a teacher. So I'm not exactly sure what the definition of a guru is. We got to look it up unless you know it. But I'm just a teacher. Not just a teacher. I am a teacher. I love to teach. I love to educate. One of the statements in my bio is that we educate, we don't medicate. I'm a teacher. I love to teach.
Okay,
it's what I do. So that I would say I would classify myself as a teacher, not necessarily a guru.
Sharing your knowledge and giving it back to others. Because, that sentence of guru just popped up because when you were talking, you said, like, I take people and I change their environment, I change their friendship. And I was just like, holy smoke, that's that's kind of interesting status to do, but it's fantastic. And teaching, our universe is going to be better and better if we spread knowledge at large. We need that. Many people are just like living in a limbo of not knowing what is true, what is not, or what is existing, or what is possible. And I think that it's your role, it's our role, it's the role of people that know a bit more than others to spread around those facts and knowledges and make this humanity better. So let's go back to the Keto Camp. You created that because the name, for me, I look at Keto Camp, I go like, oh, it's just like we're learning keto, how to go to keto diet and stuff like that. You mentioned it's mainly oriented around the mindset, governance, I would say. But explain me, how did you come up with the idea of creating Keto Camp?
Yeah, for sure. So in 2018, I had my CrossFit gym here in Miami. It was called Live Free CrossFit on 80th in Biscayne Boulevard. At this time, I decided to sell my CrossFit shares to my business partner and transition to virtual, going online 100%. And I had my company, which was called Live Free CrossFit, and then I had my own brand, which was called Shred Fat at the time. And I rebranded Shred Fat into Keto Camp at that time. I loved teaching keto, and it was something that lit me up. So Keto Camp started then, and then all the social media platforms all changed to Keto Camp. And it really grew fast once we made that clear niche decision. But I will say this, most people who don't come into my world and watch my videos and see what I teach, they think that I'm one of those keto bros, if you will, like a very dogmatic keto guy. I am the exact opposite. I actually teach that we should not do keto long term. I don't think it's healthy. I think ketosis is not even a diet. It's a metabolic process. And we just use it to reset the metabolism, to reverse insulin resistance and diabetes. And then we get out of ketosis and go back in. And I call it keto flexing. So Keto Camp is what draws people in because everybody knows about keto. They want to learn about it, but they soon discover that we're not dogmatic. We're about health, not dogma. And it's so much more than just keto. Keto is one tool in the shed with other amazing tools, fasting being one of them. And I'm not against carbohydrates at all. So we use carbs at the right time. So I'm very non-dogmatic about keto.
That's amazing because, the first perception is always that one, like you're the keto guru, brainwashing people with keto. And I love to hear the fact that you're not, and you are like, you're this type of person that helps others by improving their life and using tools. And I'm with you on that. Keto for a certain time can work. You can lose weight. Don't do it over time. Don't stick to it forever because you're going to get sick. And as you said, it's tools. So what other tool are you using outside of keto?
Well, fasting, which you said you're a fan of. We do different fasting strategies, but we do something called feast, famine, cycling, meaning fasting is great, but so many people take fasting to an extreme level, just like keto. They take anything extreme is not good. So too much fasting is not good. We forget sometimes the feast. And the body could go into this preservation mode when it's in fasting states too long. So I teach feast, famine, cycling. We have days where we fast and we're in a deficit with protein, a deficit with calories and nutrients. And then we have days when we're in abundance, and it mixes things up. Like a good fitness coach is always mixing things up, keep the body guessing. This does something similar as well. So we teach feast, famine, cycling. We also teach carnivore, or the carnivore diet, very short term, 30 to 40 days as a way to reset the gut. And keto flexing, which is going in and out of ketosis. And then we have other principles like vitamin G. Vitamin G is a principle that we have all of our students do. And I say principle because it's not technically like a real supplement that you take, but it's the practice of gratitude. It is a grateful heart, a grateful state. It has been proven to be anti-inflammatory, fat burning. You get serotonin, oxytocin, et cetera. So we teach our students how to not just do gratitude like a checklist, but feel the gratitude and live the gratitude. So
it's hard.
exactly. So we call it vitamin G, and because it's
so you're forced on that.
Powerful vitamin. So those are the ancient healing strategies, and we talk about sleep and we talk about other supplements, etc. But those are the main ones.
But teaching gratitude is kind of a big challenge because, like, in the root of thinking of certain type of personalities, gratitude is not part of it, and they don't even understand. Like, it's not like feeling pity or feeling sad for someone. Gratitude goes way beyond those principles and concepts. And to make them understand that, what do you do? How do you do that?
Yeah, you're right. If somebody's having trouble, if somebody is treating gratitude like a checklist, meaning they'll write it down a couple of sentences and they're like, I'm done. I practice gratitude. What I'll do with them is I'll change things up. So there's a couple ways to do this. Number one, I'll have them just choose 1 or 2 moments in their life that they can look back at where they were, super happy, excited about, grateful about, and live in that moment for a minute. What did it sound like? What did it look like? What did it feel like? Maybe it was a relationship. Maybe it was something where you were super excited about, a goal you achieved. So live there for a minute. If they're still having trouble doing that, because that does happen, I'll tell them, okay, who are some important people in your life? Oh, my mom, she works. Are you grateful for her? Yeah, I am, but they're going to say, I don't really feel the gratitude. So I'll say, okay, imagine if your mom wasn't here. Imagine if your mom, suddenly passed away today, would you be sad? Yeah, of course, I would be devastated. So are you grateful for her being around, that you could call her right now and have a conversation? So I let them see the other side of things. If something was taken away from them, then it's easier to experience the gratitude when we see that we've lost something.
Brilliant. Love it.
Yeah, thank you.
That's very cool. Because, we hear gratitude everywhere on posts and everything, but most people around, it's like meditation. Most people, they don't even know how to start meditation. It's difficult. Yeah. And those are like free tools, accessible. You don't have to pay for using them.
You're correct.
Yeah. And they make your life better in one way or the other.
Instantaneously, too.
Exactly. Yeah. I've never seen anybody on this planet expressing gratitude or doing meditation being a nasty person.
It's true. Yeah. Well, it's a universal law, because when I talk about gratitude, sometimes people will comment and say, that's a whole bunch of like hippy dippy woo woo stuff. And then I'm like, okay, let's talk about the science, because there is a science to gratitude. And I love this stuff. There's a part of the brain called the reticular activating system. It's the size of our pinky, and it's in our brainstem. And it's the part of the brain that is filtering out unnecessary data. Because if we didn't have this RAS, the reticular activating system, the brain would short circuit. There's millions of things that are stimulating the brain. We need to be able to filter out what's not important. So it'll filter out whatever you have, it'll show you whatever you have given to it, meaning whatever you have fed energy to. So if you're focusing on, let's say, the opposite of gratitude, you're focusing on all the things you hate about yourself, about your, skin that has acne, your belly fat, the job you hate, then all you're going to see is that, because RAS is going to pick that up and just show that to you everywhere you go. That's why you hate your job. That's why you're so ugly. That's why you're so overweight. And when you do the opposite, when you start getting into a gratitude state and practicing gratitude, now the things you perceived as obstacles are now opportunities. And now you see more things to be grateful for. It's like when you buy a red car, a red Tesla, you now see the red Tesla everywhere. It's not because they just bought the red Teslas. They were always there, but the RAS now sees it. So that's how it works from a scientific point. Whatever you feed that RAS, you'll see more of. So if you feed yourself gratitude, whatever you appreciate will appreciate. It will expand. It's a universal law, just like gravity.
Yeah, I love it. It's cool. Let me ask you a deep question here. So you speak a lot. I've seen your post, your talk. You speak a lot about the benefit of certain component in food and supplements. You speak about the brain. You speak about psychology. Where'd you get all this information?
The books behind me.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a big reader. I study a lot. But not only that, of course, books are one thing, but also like taking action and, life experience. But being a student, being really curious and just reading books, listening to great podcasts like your No Plan B podcast, listening to great conversations, and just inundating my brain. I call it brain tattooing. It's brain tattooing myself, and then, taking action and not just having intention, because intention doesn't change anything. Intention takers don't change the world. Action takers do. Yeah. So it's a culmination. 14 years, I would say in the last 14 years, I've studied on average 3 hours every day for 14 years, right?
That's a lot. Not even students do that.
Yeah, exactly. And the funny thing is, when I was a student, Jean, the last thing I did was study. I would just skip school and cheat and do do the bare minimum. But once you get excited about something, once you like have a goal that you have fallen in love with, you have the energy, you have the bandwidth, you have the focus. There's a great quote. There's a great quote from Robert Heinlein. He said, "In the absence of clearly defined goals, we become strangely loyal to performing daily trivia until ultimately we become enslaved by it."
Wow.
That was my life. Not clear on my goals, and I was enslaved by daily trivia. And for a lot of people, unfortunately, that's their life. But once you get clear on your goals and define it, you line up your calendar with that, and you got the energy, you got the vitality, and then you're unstoppable.
You know what, Ben? You're probably among the only person, try to remember, that can remember a quote that long.
I've said it a lot. It is a long quote. In the beginning, I would have to have like a notepad here and I would read it as I would say it, but now I memorized it.
Yeah, I was checking your eyes and you were just like saying it because it's imprinted in your memory. That's it.
Brain tattoo, brother.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. No,
thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, brother.
Love it. So now, deep into your mind, I know you're busy with the Keto Camp and the conference and everything that you do, the talk, the speeches and everything. What's your take on our society? Like you see the biohacking movement taking a certain lead. Would you consider yourself as a biohacker?
Yeah, I would put myself in that category for sure. Yeah.
Okay, because when you look at so the biohacking community in general, like the perception of biohacking has been like
watered down.
Yes, because the term biohack didn't fit very well in the society where hacking is some sort of connotation of taking away from others. Yeah. But I think that at the end of the day, we're doing some sort of soma optimization, life optimization in this community. But now what you see is like the wellness industry is growing fast. Many people are paying attention to their behaviors, their diet, the food. They're ready to spend a bit more money to get more quality food. Do you think that in the future, all these fast food and dry food that we have available like everywhere are going to be just part of the past history, or we're going to stick to these stupidities that have created our society up to where we are today?
Yeah, it's a very deep question. I don't think that's going to change. I think the fast food restaurants and big pharma and big food companies are going to be here for a while. That's the bad news. The good news is that more people are taking ownership. More people are taking responsibility. In the last 3 years with COVID specifically was actually a blessing to this because a lot of people, when the lockdowns happened in those months where everybody was home, everybody saw what happened in America. The gyms had to close down. Churches had to close down. But what did they allow to remain open? Liquor stores and fast food restaurants. Wow. Well, people saw that and they remember it. And it helped our cause. It helped people take ownership and discover biohacking and discover keto, fasting, whatever it is. So it helped people actually see the writing on the wall. And I think if that happens again, if more of that happens where the government starts to like push that on us, meaning fast food restaurants and liquor stores versus the gym and going outside and getting fresh air, people are going to continue to wake up. And conversations like this are going to wake people up. So I don't see the fast food industry going away and big pharma and big food companies because they're all tied in with the government. It's just part of it. But I see more people waking up with the availability of podcasts and social media and conferences. It's just going to grow and gain more momentum. That's why conversations like this are just so very important.
Yeah, they are. It's not like being part of the conspiracy theory, but my opinion on that is that I believe that it's going to be a shift in those fast food industries because of the pressure of the world coming from the consumer themselves being more informed, being more aware, taking ownership of their health. Look at, I think it's Starbucks using olive oil infusion.
Right, yeah.
People are running to the bathroom apparently.
Yeah, I wonder if it's real olive oil or if it's cut with canola oil. I haven't checked.
Do you know what? This is one of the most interesting, well, I'm not putting into a small bracket there. One of the most interesting posts I've seen was the post you were talking about those oil. Would you mind just to remind people here? It's fantastic. The world need to know.
Yeah, for sure. I love talking about this. So I'll preface it by saying I interviewed Dr. Kate Shanahan recently. I've interviewed her a few times on my podcast, but last October I interviewed her for the third time. And she, for those who don't know who she is a medical doctor. She wrote a really good book that's kind of a classic in the health and wellness space called Deep Nutrition. And she was Kobe Bryant's nutritionist with the Los Angeles Lakers when Kobe Bryant used to play. And I asked her the question. I said, Dr. Kate, we know that cancer is on the rise, autoimmune disease is on the rise, diabetes, heart disease. I'm going to give you 3 scenarios, and I want you to let me know which scenario do you believe is worse? Which one will contribute to disease faster? The first scenario was somebody who smokes cigarettes every day. The second scenario was somebody who eats processed sugar every day. And the third scenario was somebody who eats vegetable oils every day. And when I asked the question, she laughed and she said, that's an easy question, Ben. It's the vegetable oil. And here's her reasoning why. She said, of course, smoking cigarettes is not good for you, but once you finish the last puff, you've done your damage. That cigarette smoke is not accumulating in your body fat. When you eat processed sugar in excess, that's not good for you, but you could exercise, you could burn it off. It gets stored as regular body fat. Vegetable oils, also called seed oils, they get stuck in your body fat, creating systemic chronic inflammation for years. It's estimated that the half-life of these vegetable oils is 680 days, about 2 years, which means half-life, if you remove them today, you stop eating them today, 680 days later, half of them will remain in your body fat, creating inflammation. And they're everywhere. For sure, they're at fast food restaurants, but they're also at the fanciest restaurants here in Miami or whatever city y'all live in. They're at Whole Foods supermarket. I'm going to give your audience a list of them. It's canola oil, corn oil, and cottonseed oil. Soybean oil, safflower oil, sunflower oil, rice bran oil, and grape seed oil. Those are what she calls the hateful eight. They're polyunsaturated fats. They are highly unstable. They use high temperatures to process them. They use detergents and chemicals. So we want to instead use olive oil. So I love that Starbucks is using olive oil as long as it's real olive oil, because sometimes it's cut with canola. We love saturated fats like coconut oil. We love butter, duck fat, beef tallow, avocado oil. These are going to be much, much better.
Yeah. Why people are still making them?
Because it's cheap. Bottom line, it's not because it makes the food taste better. It doesn't. It's because it's very cheap. And that's why they're making them.
Yeah. You can use paraffin. As
Say
oil.
again?
Candle paraffin as oil, it's going to be the same damage. Like the toxicity of these things is terrible. Yeah. Well, but I'm still confident that in the future, those things, because of those talk and information, they're not going to sell that much anymore in a couple of years. So they're going to be forced to stop production unless they go on a derivative product. But I doubt, because you see, it's been 10, 15 years we talk about olive oil and Mediterranean diet and things like that. And the olive oil now is like taking most space on shelves. Then we spoke about avocado oil and coconut, and you see them more and more in the supermarket. So I'm confident on that. Now I want to pick up your brain. We're talking about our generation and these people that lives as adults in this world. What's your take on the next generation and the one that have some sort of behavior like you had when you were a kid, playing games and not going out? I want to hear you on that, like generation that are from Gen X and younger, and those kids that are turning like in between 16 and 18 now, taking over the next step for the economy and the world.
Yeah, I'm always an optimist. Sounds like you are too.
Yeah.
And I'm never, rarely a cynic. I'm always I'm optimist, and I'm also a realist. So I don't know, but my guess is that I'm a kind of worried about the new generation with artificial intelligence and what is it called? VR, virtual reality. We have so many kids on medications, ADHD, ADD. We have college students taking Adderall, the opioid crisis. Man, it's getting worse. And by the CDC predicts by the year 2032, which is less than 10 years from now, they are predicting how it's projecting that 1 in 2 children will be born on the autism spectrum. 1 in 2. So, there's a lot of craziness and that's a lot of negative things I just mentioned. And I think if we just make sure as parents, as adults, as people who have influence in their community, we continue to just spread the message and change people's lives, we can make a big difference. Because I don't like the direction it's headed in. And that's the truth. The direction is headed towards a bad path. More kids are taking more drugs than ever before. Type 2 diabetes used to be called adult onset diabetes, but now kids get it. So now it's called type 2 diabetes. So trending in the wrong direction, but it doesn't mean we can't turn it around. So that is where I think it's going and where it is. What about you? What do you think?
It's interesting because my take on the VR, for example, I went back to the MIT. I'm this type of guy that can't stop studying as you are. And so I went back to school and learned VR, XR, artificial intelligence. But one fact is VR actually is today used to treat some illness and sickness. And there is a big improvement in treating anxiety, depression, post-traumatic disorders with VR stimulation and situation. So I have big faith on that. And we will not escape the extended reality world because it's going to be part of our world of tomorrow. Now, about the artificial intelligence, it's going to be tricky to deal with artificial intelligence because all the industries and companies that have not been ready or informed or taking the lead on using it, they will die. In 10 years from now, people that just reject artificial intelligence will lose their job. If you're not using it as a tool, you're going to be part of the past because it goes faster than before. The young kids are using it already. So they're going to be stronger than our generation. This is where my faith is coming from. On the other hand, I have a big faith on these guys because the world of tomorrow made by these young people is a well-informed world. When you talk to kids at the age of 18, 20, 16, and they know what intermittent fasting is, keto is, they know what cold plunge can do to your body. They know all these, looking at sunrise in the morning to make sure that you're going to sleep well at night. They know these things. We, as adults, we're not educated for that. We're just like in the middle of, you have to work, you have to find a job, you have to study, you have to do this thing. You can smoke, but it's bad for you. So I think we're going in the right direction. But some are going to be left over in the front. Yeah.
I like your viewpoint. I'll take yours over mine. Yours is more positive.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Sharing ideas, that's what makes the world better.
Amen.
Yeah. Amen. Absolutely. You do a lot of speeches and talk. You're a keynote speaker. And I saw recently an extract of your next talk in the Biohacking Congress and Conferences. What, at the end of that journey of making a speech, you expect from your audience?
What do I want to get across to my audience when I'm done with my speech? Is what you're asking. Yeah. The main thing I want them to get is that their body was built to be self-healing, and that God created their body to have self-healing mechanisms already inside of the body. And the symptoms they might be having, and the symptoms could be obesity, diabetes, high blood pressure, cancer is a symptom, being overweight is a symptom. Those are not even the problem. They are symptoms. They are a result of the problem. So don't focus and chase symptoms. Go underneath the hood and figure out why those symptoms are there. Why is the check engine light on? So what I want to get across to them is that your body has everything it needs to heal itself. You are a masterpiece because you are a piece of the master. This is the way God built you. The reason you have symptoms is a beautiful gift from your innate intelligence showing you this is your check engine light. Let's figure out what's causing it. We don't just chase the symptoms. We figure out what's causing it. So I want them, that's the main thing I want them to get. I want them to have that belief in their innate intelligence, in their human body, and for them to get away from the symptom chasing and find out what the cause is.
I love it. It's a bit like, this concept of cyborg gains that I was saying, everyone is a cyborg, but he doesn't know it. It's just like nothing is impossible as long as you are convinced that you can do it and you use the right tool and you listen to your body. Interesting fact. Our body heals by itself with the components and the chemicals and the transmitters and cells that we produce. Let's jump to one topic that is very hot these days, stem cell. Okay, listen to this, Ben. this story. Yeah, and it happened like 30 minutes before our talk. I was talking to a well-known organizer of conferences, and he was telling me that a doctor was using his own pee, urine, to treat cancer. Yeah. And
urotherapy, huh? It's called urotherapy.
Urotherapy. And in the run of that, this is where using urine for treatment was a fact that I can admit that I was telling him when I was a kid with acne. At the age of 11, I was in Italy, and we bumped, my cousin and I, into an old woman, and she goes like, "You want to get rid of your acne? The first urine in the morning, put it on your face. Trust it.
Wow.
1 week after, no pimples."
So you did it. You actually drank it.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
No. You put it on your face.
You put it on your face. Okay, got
exactly.
it.
Topical treatment, but it worked. It's because of all the components. Scientifically speaking, it's easy, understandable. But the concept of George telling me before, he goes like, okay, you know that pea contains the biggest amount of stem cell that you can think about. And my first reaction, I want to share that and think I have your opinion on that because it's fresh. My opinion was like, okay, our body is made to heal by itself, to trigger signal and to reject all the toxicity that is not meant to stay in your body has to be rejected, urine included. So I had that thought, if there is so many stem cells in that urine, it must be for a reason that they are rejected there. Are they already in a way of differentiating themselves? Are they toxic? Shall we use them?
Yeah. I mean, it's an interesting topic. I know the kidneys filter out most of the toxins, if not all. I don't know much about urine therapy, but I remember, who was it? Edward Group, I think the guy's name was, Dr. Edward Group. He spoke at Dave Asprey's conference a couple years ago, and I watched him speak. It was all about this. He called it, I think he called it golden therapy. And he had a lot of science and research on drinking your urine. First urine in the morning, I think he was explaining it like you pee in the morning and you wait a couple seconds to let some of it out, and then you collect the rest of it and you drink it. And he was explaining how it's loaded with stem cells. He had a whole bunch of studies. He had a whole bunch of anecdotal evidence, and it was very convincing. And I still have not drank my own urine because I'm not against it. I'm not saying it won't work. I don't know. I just haven't gotten myself to do that. I don't know much about it to speak on. I do think it's fascinating, though. You bring some good questions. Why are there stem cells coming out of the urine? Like, with the body, are the body rejecting them? Is it clean? But there's some anecdotal evidence and a lot of research showing that it's beneficial. So I don't know, man. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's intriguing. I'd like to see what is going on that in the future. Is like, because when we look at the biohacking concept, it's all natural processes, like ancestral, like what you're teaching your client and audience. So from the ancestral method, there's none on the P side that are none or used in the past, and must be for a reason. But I'm open to everything. I'm very curious. Now, it brings me to a topic I want to share. I want to have your feedback on it. Like, in this community, we see many people bringing and bragging sometimes scientific evidence from one side to the other, to others, and having talk about science without not making any evaluation of the impact that could be way beyond that simple statement that comes from one study, for example. How do you make sure, Ben, that all the information that you relate to your audience and people that are listening and fans, because you have fans, is accurate enough, and you don't fall into the pit of vehiculating some information that could be biased or could be true for a certain part but doesn't apply for the purpose that you are explaining? How do you make sure that you are right when you say things?
Yeah, you kind of said it with the question, right? You explained, first of all, that this tool, this supplement, whatever you're talking about, might work for one person but not the other. So you let them know that, right off the bat. That's what I let them know. Like, this might work for you, we could consider trying it if you're open to it. I always like to experiment on myself first. I like to kind of live it to lead it. Like carnivore, for example, I was interviewing a lot of people about carnivore 4 or 5 years ago. I started to read all these anecdotal evidence and videos on what carnivore is doing for people. And I wanted to start teaching it to my community, but I never did it. So I had to do it first. So I did a whole experiment where I did 40 days of carnivore lab work, and it was phenomenal for me. I did lab work day 1, day 40. All my labs improved. I felt great. And then I started teaching it. But even with carnivore, I'll say, even though it worked for me, it might not work that well for you. Yeah. And, the science shows one thing, but we're so different. There's sometimes when you look at things in a lab, it's so different than in reality. And there's so many factors there. The problem though, or not the problem, the challenge would be, when I have a 60-second Instagram reel and I'm talking about the benefits of something, it's impossible for me to give all those caveats in a 60-second clip. So somebody will take that and go all in with it, and maybe they'll get a positive result, maybe they'll get a negative result, but it's like it misses all the other moving parts that, we can't put in a 60-second clip. It's a 60-second clip, maybe from like a 60-minute lecture. Yeah. And it's so hard with our short attention spans and short form content. So it's a challenge. And with that challenge is an opportunity as well.
Yeah, I agree on that. Totally agree on that. It's just like, I think that our role now is to make sure that whatever information is out there has some sort of backup. This fight between biohacking community and science community, which it's a surprising one, because we're speaking exactly about the same thing. We're trying to resolve the same problem. And from one hand to the other, we don't tolerate what each other says. We should work hands by hands and keep this work moving forward and make this work better. The last topic I want to cover with you, because I want to know the whole personality. You see this rise of quantum energy and quantum by heat, quantum by this, and quantum that. Is that something that you're exploring currently? Are you looking at anything related to quantum energy? Have you studied on that?
I haven't studied it much, Jean. I remember doing a little bit of scalar energy healing, and I did a month of it where they took a photo of me and put different energies on different days. And the problem with that is that I do so many different things. It's hard to say like, this is the thing that made me feel better, because I'm having a new supplement. I'm doing red light therapy. I'm doing this, that. So I don't know if it made a difference or not. And I haven't really looked, I'm not denying it at all. I could see the value in it for sure. And I'm open to it. So don't get me wrong. I have not put enough research and time and experience into this field, so I can't speak on it. But what about you? Have you looked into it? Do you use it?
Yeah, I'm a big fan of quantum energy, but the energy theory from Einstein, actually, when this Nobel Prize was released a year ago, I became so obsessive compulsive, knowing what the heck is happening, that someone is coming with a concept that our brain cannot understand, and I need to understand it. So I went back to all the studies that Einstein did in 1936, I think it's 1932, 36.
Wow.
And I studied for hours and hours and hours, to the point that, I understand the principle. To put it in application and in perspective, it's another story. We're far from there, but we're getting closer. It's like you said before, rewiring our brain to make sure we understand, because it's a concept that we cannot get. We're not educated. Our brain is not made to understand it now. But Einstein did for some reason. So I'm very curious about that.
Yeah, it's fascinating.
It's fascinating. It's great. The last thing I want to jump back on this VR a point that you said before. You know that in the future there is a big chance that your conferences, your camp or your training session will have a side of virtual reality, because people are chasing the thrill of being immersed into things. And some people cannot fly from, Ukraine to where you do the camp. So it's going to be the same experience in a virtual world, thanks to Mr. Zuckerberg with the metaverse.
Yeah.
Yeah. We're getting there more and more. Are you preparing yourself for that? Or?
Yeah, no, I'm open to it. I'm not a Luddite. I think technology is very valuable. I don't like Facebook, but I use Facebook. It's like, I'm going to use wherever wherever people are going, I'm going to go. I'm going to go there. You know, if metaverse is where I'm going to reach people, I'll be in the metaverse, right? I do believe this though. Nothing will replace human to human, like person to person contact. And that's number one for me, in-person conferences. But to your point, not everybody could do that. And if we could have a backup that's even better than Zoom, I'm all for it. You know, I haven't studied virtual reality enough to kind of be an expert on it. But I'm open to it for sure. It's kind of like a double-edged sword, just like social media. You got to use it the right way. Don't let it use you. And that's the main thing. Just use it the right way.
Yeah. And adapt. Yeah. It takes a certain adaptability of the brain to be able to accept it in a way that it doesn't have to take our life from what we are now, but it has to complement it to where we want to go. It's fantastic. So you're on your way to the Keto Camp?
Yeah, next week, Keto Camp.
Next week, Austin. In Austin. And there is another one just the week after, I think. I don't remember. I saw another event in Dallas, I think. It was by?
I don't know.
No?
I'm not a part of it. No, I'm not sure. I'm speaking in KetoCon next week, and then at the Faena in Miami Beach, May 12th, at an event here at the Faena as well.
I'm gonna go and see you there.
Yeah, let's do it, brother. Let's hang out.
You were, Julia is
Julia. That's correct. Yeah.
Sweet.
I would love to see you.
Yeah, absolutely. So May 12th, I will remember the date because it's the birthday of my brother, and cool. I'll make sure I'll be there for sure.
Awesome.
I'll see you there. Hey Ben, was extraordinary having you, and you know what? I'm very happy to have discovered the person you really are behind all the screens that I see that are like, of course, they're fantastic, they're enthusiastic, they're like preaching a lot of preaching. I said the wrong word. Saying, teaching all these concepts and everything. And but behind what drives you to be there, the purpose you have is magical.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate. Thank you for letting me share my story with your audience. I love what you're doing. I was, on your YouTube channel today. I subscribed to it. I saw.
Oh, thank you.
Some of the amazing people you've had on your show. So I'm honored to be on your show. I love what you're doing. Thank you for allowing me to be with your community.
Thank you so much for being here. And I was missing one extraordinary person here.
Thank you, brother. I appreciate it.